This is Chain of Thoughts, an original podcast by Arionkoder that covers the latest trends in product and AI. In Chain of Thoughts, every show is an element of a chain, connecting product with AI and AI with product. From understanding a brand new machine learning technology to covering the newest experiences around product and design, Chain of Thoughts keeps the chain growing with the thing that we value the most, our thoughts. Chain of Thoughts is an original production by Arionkoder, a product design and development company based in Boston, Massachusetts, that delivers specialized services around engineering, product, and AI.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Chain of Thoughts. Here we are, Nacho, Vico, and Calde, as in the last ones. I
Hey, how are
I
you?
hope that they can smile a little bit, right? Because they are kind of frightened. Okay, now they are smiling. Now we have smiles. Okay, today we will start a little bit different because I think that in the last episodes you already saw me reading the introduction. So the plan is to start right from scratch and go straight to the point. So today we're going to talk about design sprints, but not design sprints in general, but carefully tailored for AI initiatives. And why is that? Because in the last show, we reflected a lot about how ChatGPT and all these large language models that are being used right now are introducing a whole new generation of products, all of them based on the same UIs, always with a text box for or a prompting interface. And today we want to get a little bit more practical. We want to understand how can we use tools like the design sprints to format and to design AI driven products. And of course, in the process, to find also better user experiences before these mere prompting interfaces. So make sure that you listen all the way through the episode if you want to learn more about this. So maybe as a starting point, maybe we can start discussing about the challenges that we have when it comes to designing AI products, right? Um, just to bring something to the table, and then you guys can jump on. I think that one of the fundamental problems is related with the mindset that we, the data scientists, always bring to the table, which is we tend to think only in terms of automation. It's like you give me your data, and I tell you if I can automate the task that you want us to do. And we know that this is one of the fundamental reasons behind the poor adoption that we're seeing about AI right now. We see that many initiatives are discarded basically because there is not enough data without, having a trade-off between automation and maybe augmentation, this idea of using an AI augmented pipeline maybe for start collecting the data that might be used later on in the process for automation. And also a problem that I experience very frequently because I'm biased by my academic background is that I never tend to think on the user. And this is something that was really challenging. The first day that I joined Arionkoder, I started to change my mind into that direction because the user is at the center of these solutions. And but at the same time, I also experienced this chicken or egg situation in which I always push to prototype the AI first so that we can understand if this is feasible or not. But if I jump directly to prototype an AI that a user will never need, then I'm busted. And on the other hand, if I focus too much on the future user interface and how the users are expected to interact with the tool, then it might be that I'm doing a huge investment on something that really depends on how feasible the AI components are. So, this is an open question for you guys. How can we challenge the challenge and, and remove this issue?
Just a
Yes, I
quick
mean,
comment, maybe, Calde, before we jump right into the AI design sprint. One of the key things we were discussing last time was why are design sprints in general a good tool also on solving some of the intricacies, let's call it, about team collaboration. And just to remind everyone before we jump in on the benefits of using these types of um, methodologies and frameworks, against like traditional collaboration between teams that requires long meetings. There's a lot of I wouldn't say disagreement, but yes, back and forth regarding how to prioritize and when to go from exploration to ideation and really getting into prototypes in a time frame that we often discuss even internally. When you give yourself the time, design and exploration can take as much time as you want, and this type of engagements allows us to really box it and time frame it in a way that you're moving forward with the team aligned on a specific challenge. So it has that specific structure that makes it more efficiently to achieve results. And as everyone is also involved in listening and you're active note taking in questions, sessions and discussions in general tend to be more productive, and you get more than just words or notes. You get sketches, note questions, and even things to validate when with your users when you finish with a prototype. And also an fun part always of this type of methodologies against regular team collaboration, the boards that we use to collaborate have this kind of how to say it? It's like a physical kind of interaction that you get in. And if you got a good facilitator, it can change even the mood of a whole team when you got everyone in the right vibe to collaborate to create great things. This might seem like silly thing, but it's not small when you're looking to create really different solutions, actually, to have their people in the right mindset and aligned. And there's a lot of kind of thinking about okay, influences and how does this new AI design sprint that it's like flashing out everywhere is getting a lot of attention. And there's a lot of different sources that have been gathered to craft this type of a specific framework. And once again, Nacho said it in the last episode too, I think, is it's not like any software solution. That's also a key thing. And so it has its particularities. And okay, what are those? And what are the challenges that it actually brings in? Is one of the things we love to explore with you today.
Yeah, great. I think something that you mentioned there, because the time framed, being it time framed, is key also to understand the cycles of definition, right? It has to do with like exploring the unknown, right? And it's the same that happens at the level of designing, thinking, and training and machine learning model, because it's actually like combining these design sprints for AI with the model definition and designing. I think is the best that we can offer and we can do, because it's about cycles. And you time frame this, you time frame a bug, or you time frame, sorry, a proof of concept, right? Or you time frame a design sprint because you want to navigate uncertainty, right? So you're navigating uncertainty with these tools. And by for doing that, you need to first like allocate that time to explore the problem and the solution in a holistic way, then assign a team to explore it in a technical way, and then continue iterating over that, right? It's not that the design sprint will get you to a final solution. It will leave you with something to experiment and some learnings, some basic learnings about what the what are the possibilities in terms of design and the technical side, and more things to explore. And the same will happen with the first iteration over a model, or at least what we know from the software industry, right? Is that it's better when you um, make progress into cycles and fast iterations, fail fast. This fail fast mentality is what is behind this, right? But getting to the design sprint itself, also as you mentioned, Pico, um, we are looking at that. It's not a crazy idea from us, right? There is like a whole amount of people working on this and understanding how they can adapt design processes for the AI field and for defining AI-driven products. You have academic examples like Carnegie Mellon and the great work that they have doing. They have been doing about ideating for AI products. That's an inspiration from us, and we are even like we go through the papers that they published, and we are trying to incorporate that into our design process. And also, you have in the other side, you have like the people plus AI research at Google. That is basically it's an entire guide, chapters, and articles. It's an entire site dedicated to think how the relationship between AI systems and people needs for interaction, needs for interactions to be designed, right? So those are two main influences here. There is also the shape of AI. It's a site that is like registering emergent UI patterns. Um, Something that happens with them is that while we are while we are getting inspired by them, there are just like separated resources. And I think if you just try to go there and use them, uh, you don't have the time frame that the design sprint has, right? So that's the missing part. And what we are trying to do with our design AI design sprint process is to package all of that into a time framed version, right? And also we are using, of course, the inspiration from the design sprint itself, which is pretty great.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And to your point, when it comes to merging everything into the same AI design sprint, I guess that one important component is to develop a common language with the users and with the stakeholders of the project, because we can talk about AI like in general terms, but we need to at some point bring it to the table and figure out what we are talking about when we talk about AI. We're talking about using LLMs. We're talking about training our own custom model. We are training about doing computer vision or training an object detector or things like that. So there is a very interesting resource from Carnegie Mellon that has there is a really nice paper. Maybe we can share the link jointly with this episode, in which the researchers shared a series of snapshots about different problems that can be tackled with AI, and but in general terms, so that you understand them like from an input output perspective rather than delving into all the technical aspects of that. I think that's very important and should be always an element in any AI design sprint. It's an element in ours, in particular, in the one that we use in Arionkoder, but it's also important for any other initiative. Maybe some of the listeners of this episode are trying to look up for resources like that. And I think it's a very, very valuable one so that you can develop this common background. Or at least I find that interesting because I'm also a professor in the university. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting resource to communicate with people.
No, yeah, 100%. It's a great resource. Um, and I think it's doing like an excellent job into creating a shared language, as you were saying. And the design sprint is also about this, right? About creating shared understanding. So in our process of the AI design sprint, we combine the first part that is understanding about the project and the problem space with understanding more about how to design for AI because we have a new problem now, right? There are like designers and there are like AI experts and they don't know each other. Both of them work on definition of the product. So they need to create like a common language. So this um, ideation tool from Carnegie Mellon based on capabilities of AI kind of helps in creating a shared knowledge. We introduced it, we present it in our design sprint. The people that is participating learns about the capabilities and how to use them through this guide from Carnegie Mellon and some other examples and knowledge that we have. And then from creating that common ground, we start working on the part of the project that has to do with ideation, right? But it starts just in the understanding phase. It's like something that helps everyone understand what can be done with AI, what are the exact capabilities. And we kind of know, like for example, now I can like, create a chat tool with ChatGPT or that kind of examples that talks to um, an user and helps him create something. But the thing is that this lets you understand what is happening in a more deep level, right? There is like this capability from the system to collect information, to process it, to make sense of it, and to provide also like an output, like acting over it. So it's a way of understanding the models as pieces or cards that you can put together. But getting back to our process. Oh, sorry, you wanted to say something, Nacho?
Yeah, actually, that I was going to say that I guess that once you develop that common language, the next step is to start doing some interviews and understanding, like in the classical design sprint, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So we have to level the field about the new tool and new material that AI means for designers. And we also need to level the field into the process of designing a product, right? That would be like the interesting part for ML experts. And both ML experts and designers and stakeholders participate in the AI design sprint. So they're all on the same page, right? So what we do is we start by exploring the problem space, and exploring the problem space means talking to users and subject matter experts and understanding more of the field, understanding a bit more of the market and the tools being used, and essentially like the workflow, which is the most important part from ourselves, understanding the customer journey, right? How a user goes from an initial moment to the outcome that he's looking for, right? So we, with simple questions and with just like talking to users and subject matter experts, we help everybody to navigate that in a fast, efficient way, right? We take notes into sticky notes, sticky post-its, and we try to group them later together to make sense of the different interviews that we have been doing. That's essentially like the understanding part, but there is a new thing with AI. And the thing is that you can start thinking, and everybody will be thinking about the opportunities there, right? The ML opportunities. And there will be like opportunities for automating things, and there will be opportunities for augmenting processes that, as we talked in our previous episodes, could be to create a relationship between the model and the user that favors um, the production, right? The how efficient a task is performed. So already at this level, we start to map those opportunities because it's in the head of everybody, right? They are thinking about it. So just like dump it and remove it from your head and put it in the shared space. That's something that we do all of the time with design thinking. So we can talk about that. And once we have done that, we have started mapping the different opportunities. We can go into the next phase, right? The next phase that is the ideation.
I have
And
a
in some
question
cases,
there before you jump there, Calder, because I think it's interesting. If you allow me, you talk
yeah,
about mapping the opportunities, right? And talk also a little bit about the challenges of leveling the field in terms of understanding, okay, what's we all in a session, and we're specifically working with people that are still trying to grasp actually what AI can do, what they can ask AI to do for them, or on the contrary, they still struggle with imagining because you have always the different types of level of knowledge. You may have people that are asking AI to solve everything, and people that may still struggle imagining AI doing anything of what they do today, right? And it happens to every one of us. Like we continuously discover new things that could be done, or on the contrary, things that maybe are not so well solved yet, actually. So in that discovering of opportunities and prioritization, how much translation also needs to be done. And I think we've been talking a lot about the let's call it educational aspect also of these processes that it has. And I think it's worth commenting a little bit too also. And I
Right.
know you're going to jump to the ideation phase, and I think there's a lot of interesting things that are also inserted in that phase. We call are more also leveling the field of educational sharing knowledge about.
Yes. Yes. During the whole process, we'll be like sharing some small details or knowledge, in particular knowledge that it has to do with the task or the activity that we will have to perform, right? And so, for example, depending on the team and depending on the level of the team, in some cases, we'll like share a small training about what automation means versus what augmentation means. We have some slides for that, and they help with understanding, right? Something that we can do also is to create moments for processing that, right? We can have like an initial training with we just like review the slides and the examples, and then a review before we are jumping into the activity itself. So it kind of depends on the expertise of the team that we are working with, right? Because in some cases, uh, some of them already know about AI and are already aware of these problems, right? Of interacting, users interacting with AI models and how they are not that intuitive as they seem first, and how also they can create like a rejection with users, right? If presented badly or if presented in a bad way, or if they are like creating expectations that they don't get to comply, that's also like a huge issue. So I think in that sense, the materials that we need to provide has to do with the level of knowledge of the team participating in the AI design sprint, but it's always better to plan ahead for that, right? We need to have like a initial training with this team before jumping into the design sprint itself, or it's better if we do it, we just review the materials over the sprint, right? Um, I think that answers your question, Pico. Yeah,
I,
great.
Yes,
I think
without a
so.
doubt. Completely.
I
Sorry, not
would
to go.
love, yeah, sorry. I would love to start talking about the ideation phase because I think it's, at least for me, as an AI practitioner, it's always the funniest part. I mean, not that understanding the context of the problem is not. I really love that part, and I think that uh, it's educational also for us as well. Every new project, it's like a new opportunity to learn about a new domain, and how AI can be leveraged in that particular domain. So it's really nice. But when it
Yes.
comes to it, and I love to do the solutioning part. I think it's like one of the activities that I enjoy the most to do. Behind the scenes. So I would like to for you to explain our approach because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, what we do in ideation is we have integrated a part of the ideation for Carnegie Mellon in our process right now, but we start reviewing the opportunities detected in the customer journey again, and we try to kind of decompose those opportunities on what they really mean for the AI, right? And having ML experts in that part is crucial because they can explain what are the different parts of an idea and opportunity, and also they have like a clear idea of how feasible they are. But we are not yet looking into feasibility, right? We are starting to understand what's behind the opportunities with these capabilities material from Carnegie Mellon, right? And what we do with that is we um, decompose them together, and then we select some of them in base of how usable, how useful we find them for the customer journey, right? For the customer itself. Will this be being really useful for customers? Is it worth it in terms of how useful it is? Does it automate a long process that takes a lot of time and it's error prone for humans? Is this like augmenting the experience of can this augment the experience of the user in a significant, meaningful way? So that would be like the kind of questions in which we do like an initial voting and selection. After that, we start with visual sketching, which is my preferred part of the design sprints because I have a background on design. But I think it's also like preferred for a lot of people because it's also like starting to materialize the
Yeah.
ideas into interfaces. What's your idea, Nacho? I mean, you're not a designer, so I would like to know about
No, but
that like,
I
perspective.
really love that. I really love that part as well, and I would love to be a designer, by the way. But I don't have the time now to pursue a career like that. But for me, it's also one of the most beautiful stages because there is an intrinsic relationship between what you do with a UI or what you expect to do with a UI and the AI component that you will end up building. So, for example, let's say that the person that you're talking to wants to, I don't know, annotate something on a medical image. And maybe you are thinking about, I don't know, a tool that will complement a radiological process or something like that. And then you capture that necessity from a UI perspective. And that brings you a signal about an opportunity for automation. You can say, hey, do you have data describing this particular process that you would like us to implement in this pipeline? And if the data is there, would you like to have a tool that automate this for you so that instead of doing this manually, you can simply correct the errors of an AI and simplify the process? So again, it's like the design, all this design phase is bringing something to the table that might help us as AI practitioners to figure out another scenario that was not on the table. And I really
Mhm.
love that. And another thing is that um, this particular phase of the design sprint, especially in times of LLMs, force the user to bring something alternative to a prompt interface. Because you can
Yeah,
simply ask, I would like to have a button that I can touch, and then the moment I press it, I get a longer version of the text I'm writing, for example. And that means that there is a prompt there, but it's going to be hidden on that very button. And that helps you
yeah,
to, that brings a lot of things to the table. First, it's easy to implement. Second, it goes outside the prompt interface that we all love and hate at the same time, because I hate being
mhm,
typing all the time and writing more and more instructions. And the third thing is that it's also more secure, because since you are hiding the prompt, you are less prone to security issues, these new security issues like prompt injection and things like that, that might jeopardize the actual platform that you're building. So yeah, I really believe that this part is essential, and it gives you more clues about how to bring AI closer to the users without simply relying on a prompting interface, which is my obsession. I want to get rid of prompts as soon as
mhm.
possible, and at the same time, as I said, it's a really nice opportunity for learning new AI opportunities at the same time.
Right. Yeah, and I see a lot of people in the UI field talking about instructional interfaces and trying to understand how to work with these prompts and how to include that in the process. But in reality, there's something that you mentioned that I think is really important to grasp here. This thing of the button converting like an entire prompt into just like a click and a single action. That's valuable, and that's what we have been doing as
Hmm.
UI designers have been doing for the entire time, right? For their whole career, what they have been doing is they are like hitting entire pieces of logic behind single UI representations, and that provides value to any kind of product. So that's why we do visual sketching tool for AI. And maybe there are parts or there are like different things that you need to think how to work with because the generative aspect of the AI is something that is new to us. When we are working on UIs, we are used to work with static things that in some cases they are not that static, but generative AI is a new level of dynamic, right? Dynamic content because you are not sure what will be generated. But the things that we here for the sake of the design sprint itself, we follow the typical process. We do note taking, we go to simple sketching, then crazy eights activity, and then we present concepts. And but there are two things that differs from the typical sketching at the same time. The first one is that the note taking part, in which you will be like taking notes of what you consider valuable or what ideas you have in your mind. In this case, we do it in a different way. We try to put that on sync with presenting new patterns and emerging patterns. We in this moment is when we use some of the examples and details from the chapters from Google People plus AI research, and also some patterns presented in shape of AI. We use that just to in replace of the lightning demos that would be like something that you do in the design sprint because there aren't really like a great amount of sources of inspiration that people is aware of right now. So it's better to present direct examples and then allow them to think how that we are looking at can be adapted for the problem, specific problem that they are trying to design for, right? So we do that. We think that's a better approach, and it works better in our experience. Um, the other thing that changes regarding this visual sketching part is that in the conceptualizing moment, instead of going with the typical like presenting concept with three images and some text, we use a more structured format that was also like presented. It's pretty inspired in the Carnegie Mellon material. We adapt it a little bit because we also want to have a first idea of the logical workflow behind and also about the how the system should optimize for if it should optimize for precision or recall. So that's what we do in the visual sketching part. And of course, the ideation part is also about like selecting ideas. But before just doing like a plain boarding, we do two things that has to do at the same time with bringing again the different knowledge together. We perform like a design critic, which is a format from designers to provide feedback in which they look at each of the concepts and they make questions to them and they highlight what they like. It's like more like a structured feedback conversation, but we do that, and that like kind of includes the design perspective into the concepts, and then we perform the technical assessment, right? So the technical assessment we have an asynchronous time to go there and check what is needed, data sources, the the viability of using that, who are the data owners, etc. Right? And once we have all of that together, we just share it and we do the voting and selecting activity. And that's essentially like the ideation part. Any questions about this?
No, actually, I think that something that I would like to bring to the table, and we are running out of time, and it's such a pity, but still, is that the output of this process is like a combination of a series of sketches of how the final product might look like, but also we have a prioritized list of AI models or AI components that are necessary to bring this product to life, right? So these first two stages can be used even though the customer or the stakeholders, even if they don't want to advance and progress to the product. This is useful for them. For example, we have seen that with the startups when they want to have sketches about the application, but they don't
Yes.
have the funding to start developing it. And it's also useful from an AI perspective because now you have a list of the AI components that you need, and you can start prototyping those AI components and verifying if those are feasible or not. And this is something that we do a lot in Arionkoder and that we expect to keep doing all the time, which is once we identify these AI opportunities and once we determine if they are feasible or not by heart, basically analyzing the problem, the next step is to prototype and to evaluate that, which is quite similar to what you do in classical design sprints, right? You prototype the
Yeah.
UI and you test
Hmm.
that with the users.
Hmm.
In this case, what we want to do is to prototype the AI models, evaluate them, evaluate the numbers in a test set, verify if the numbers that we get are the numbers that the users were expecting. And then,
Yeah.
if we have a confirmation for that, the next step is to build the other prototype that we are talking about, the UI
Hmm.
prototype that connects all the dots. Which
In
brings
reality,
again,
here is that um, we can jump into, I mean, the third and fourth stages of design sprint are about prototyping and testing. And
mhm,
we can do the same that we do in a typical design sprint. We can just prototype the UI, and that will be like going to Figma and linking some screens and present it to users and validate how users feel with just the UI without having built anything. And this can be like linked to the AI and the model development and in different ways. Maybe there is already like a POC or something that the team tried, and in some cases we can kind of connect the prototype to that, like stitching them together. It won't look the same maybe, but there could be like things that can feel more integrated that the users could perceive as it being like a cohesive product. So you're testing it at the moment, the POC itself and the design at the same time. That would be like a way of validating, but it could also happen that you don't have anything developed, as you mentioned, of the AI system, and so you decide to just like delay everything or test just the UI to learn about the UI details and how users perceive the results before you design the model. Right? That could also like provide some clues, like users prefer to have categories like high um, high certainty about something instead of 88% certainty. So it can also like create some useful information for designing what would be the outcomes of the ML model. But again, we are getting back to this chicken or egg situation that you were talking. So it really like depends on what's your team preference. The good thing to grab here is that we can use adapt to different situations of the ML development
mhm.
stage that the team is in.
Yeah, and you have user signals, which is the most important part. You're
Right.
not creating AI in the void. You are basically creating AI from a user centric perspective. Going back to the very opening of this episode, we are doing something alternative to the way in which other people decides to do AI, especially in academia. I mean, I see that all the time. I see people publishing papers with new tools to solve a problem that no one has. So in this context is very important because you want to focus only on that. And these user signals that you're getting from a UI perspective, let's say, are useful to steer the AI components. So it's really important. But again, it's always a chicken and egg situation in which the users slash the stakeholders are the ones that have the last word. So it's up to them to decide how to move forward.
100%.
Unfortunately, I have to wear the policeman hat and say that we are running out of time. So it was lovely to talk with you. Unfortunately, we lost Vico at some point
Yeah.
of the recording, but I hope she's fine. No, she's fine. She had to leave because she had
She's
a
fine.
meeting.
She's fine. Yeah.
But if you made it to this point, that means that you have listened to all our episode, which is great. Thank you very much for your company today. I hope that all the topics that we have talked about with Calde today and with Vico as well were useful for you. We have covered our own proposal for design sprints for AI and UX discovery and crafting. So I think that this might be useful for everyone that have listened to the episode. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a review on Spotify or a comment in the box below if you're watching us on YouTube. And remember that Chain of Thought seeks to build a community of product designers, developers, and AI experts to keep creating great digital tools for customers and users using this new technology that we have available. So to keep this community growing, remember to like, follow, and subscribe to Chain of Thoughts, both in Spotify and YouTube, and share with your own followers using the hashtag Chain of Thoughts podcasts on X and LinkedIn. You can also follow Arionkoder on these social media platforms to keep yourself updated about the show and our actions as a company. Thank you very much, Calde and Vico, for being here, and see you soon for the next piece of the chain.
Thank you, Nacho. See you the next time. Bye.
Bye.